Coming to you from the Deep South, this is the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. High-impact leadership is not reserved for leaders, and it has nothing to do with your position, title, or rank. However, it does have everything to do with your character. It's time to climb to the next level and beyond, personally and professionally. Now, let's start making it happen with your host, Mac Story.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. And if you're listening on the day this comes out, welcome to 2021 and Happy New Year. And today I've got Rhea back with me, my wife, Rhea Story. She's back with me for part 2 of Prime Time, the Power of Effective Planning. And hope you listened to the last episode. So welcome back, Rhea, for part 2.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And I want to just open today with a quote from Tony Robbins you have in your book. I believe it would come from your book. One reason so few of us achieve what we truly want is that we never direct our focus.
That's so good.
Tell me about it.
It's just powerful. Most of us, all of us have things that we want to achieve. We have goals we have dreams, we have hopes. We want life to be better, right? There's none of us that would say, I want life to be worse. Not if you're listening to a personal growth and leadership podcast anyway. And yet, how many of us don't realize just the power of intentional living and focusing our time and our energy on our highest and best priorities? And we see those who are very effective in life and very successful in life are those who have learned to direct their focus. They're focusing their time, they're focusing their energy, they're focusing their activities. And, the return is just incredible, but it's one of those things that's very simple. It makes sense. If we go after a goal and we're intentional about it and focused and driven and dedicated, it'll take us closer to it, right? It's common sense, but it says easy and it does hard, right? It sounds good. It's just harder to actually do when it comes down to living.
Yep, absolutely. And a lot folks who've been listening to me for a while, they always hear me. I say this quote all the time. We say it all the time when we're speaking all over the country, but Michael Josephson said it best. You don't have to be sick to get better, but we're assuming anybody who's listening today wants to get better. And last time, right before we wrapped up last time, you talked about values, and I told the folks we'd talk about values-based living. We'd kick off this episode with that. What's that mean to you? What's that mean when we talk about values-based living? Because we're trying to help people kick off 2021 with intention. Hopefully they're going to stay intentional all year so they'll get different results. Talk to me about values-based living.
Yeah, to me, I think values-based living is really where we start to structure our life, our time, our energy, our focus around our values. And most of us have some common values, but a lot of us have different values, right? Someone may not value traveling around the world the same way that another person does. Some person doesn't place as high a value on their health. Some people place a higher value on family time, right? The thing is that each of us choose our values. Hopefully we've intentionally chosen our values and thought about, well, what really is most important to me? I like to walk people through an exercise where I say, what are your top 5 values? And they struggle with it, right? At first, it's like, oh, everything sounds good. I want to put a lot of values in there, and that's okay. But if I had to just, really put you to the test, what are your top 5 values? And then I take it one step further, and I said, now you got to throw away 3 of those. What are the top 2 values that are most important in your life? And how do I see them? That's where the values-based living comes out, right? First, we have to have the values, but then how do I see those top 2 values in your life? I should be able to look at your life today and know what your values are, because what someone really truly values, not what they say they value, because that's different, but what do they really value based on how they spend their time, how they spend their money, and what they talk about.
So, in our own life, like right now I'm going, the audience doesn't know, but I know I'm going through this right now, right? I always tell people, as we get older, relative to our health, our free ride's over at some point. At some point, we have to become intentional, and we got intentional about 2 years ago. Our son Eric introduced us to raw fruit and vegetable juicing, and drinking that. And for us, especially for me, that's been huge in my health. I also quit drinking any kind of sodas. I quit drinking alcohol back in 2012, so that was already a positive. And then 2018, I stopped drinking regular sodas, diet sodas or whatever, and pretty much nothing but water, and then raw fruit and vegetable juice. But that was me living my values. I had to stop what I was doing, change my activity. If I said I value my health, I had to do that. So been healthy. Today I'm 51. I think I'm, pretty healthy compared to most people my age, and a lot of people a lot younger than me. But recently I went for my annual checkup, and I had the last 2 times my cholesterol's been getting up, and I don't want to take medicine. I don't want to take any kind of medicine. I want to be healthy. I want to lead myself well to be healthy. And so now I'm figuring out I have to cut out. Normally I eat meat 3 times a day, sometimes 4 or 5 if I can get it. But I know you and I both know that eating meat a lot, it has a huge impact on cholesterol and some other things too. So I'm trying to give myself 6 months to get squared away on my meat eating, and then I go back for my blood test and see how my cholesterol is doing and see if I really can change it. That's what we're talking about though, right? Values-based living. I'm sharing my story just so people know that I'm actually doing it. I love meat. I'm not wanting to stop eating meat because I don't like killing animals and eating animals. I don't have a problem with that. I love it. It ain't about that. Some people don't eat meat because of that. That's values-based too for different reasons. But I'm sharing with my audience. I'm not trying to be one of those folks. I'm just trying to be healthy. And I would love to keep doing that if I could, but looks like I can. I'm going to find out. I'm going to see how it changes. So I've cut about 90% of meat out of my diet over the last 3 weeks. But how does that apply to what you're talking about, Rhea? How does my story right there, how does that apply to values-based living, what you were just talking about?
Well, you've had to get more intentional about, we all would say we value our health, right? But a lot of us aren't making the nutritional or exercise choices that reflect that. And you came to the realization, you're like, hey, I do value my health, but now it's time to just act on it at a different level, right? At just a higher level, because you've been drinking the juice, which is good, and you've cut out some the sodas and things like that. But now you've got to get a little more intentional, right? And that's just the nature of things as we get older. We've got to be very proactive in managing our health. And that comes down to making sure that we are getting the nutrients that we need and minimizing the toxins that don't really help us. The thing is that most of those things that are bad for us tend to taste good, right? And so the struggle is, still balancing quality of life, but really, if we value our health, we've got to take a hard look at what we're putting into our bodies. I use the example in Fearfully and Wonderfully Me. You get hungry. All of us get hungry. That's a fact, right? You can't do anything about that. But you have 100% control over what you choose to eat in response to that hunger. And, there are a lot of different diets and things like that out there, but pretty much they all agree that eating more plants and less other stuff is better for you. And I know that eating plants isn't your favorite thing, but you've had to become really proactive about living that value in your life.
Yep. We're not trying to tell other people what to do. We're just using ourselves as an example. And,
sure.
But I do want to tell the folks listening, because most people don't know about the raw fruit vegetable juice deal. I didn't know about it. I had to do a lot of research. It's crazy. I had to do all this research to find out about eating raw fruits and vegetables, but I don't research anything on the boxes and the cans and all that stuff that I don't even know how to pronounce, but I'll eat all that. But before I started juicing, I had to go research juicing. That's just crazy. But anyway, we know it's very healthy. For those folks listening, just to share with them some of the things that, I used to have tremendous back problems, and I still have a back issue, but only when I work really hard physically is it a problem. Before I started juicing, my back was like that almost every day. without doing anything. I mean, that's why I quit mountain bike racing and basically stopped riding the mountain bike and stopped doing a whole lot of things. But that raw fruit and vegetable juice is, takes care of inflammation. So it helped a lot in that area. I used to have headaches all the time. Used to have digestive issues all the time. All that stuff's gone. And it's because I aligned my habit of what I was eating and drinking and putting in my body with my values, which was being healthy. And I had no idea it was going to make me that healthy. And I just want to share with folks, Rhea and I have influenced a lot of people to do that. My son Eric is the one who influenced me on a fishing trip we went on for 3 or 4 days, and he had enough time to talk to me about it in depth, and I started doing it and been doing it every day since. And I drank 16 to 24 ounces of raw fruit and vegetable juice every day. And so when we talk about that, we had our neighbor, he's diabetic. He had basically had to take insulin every single time he eat, 3 times a day. He went cold turkey on the juice. And I'm just sharing this with you out there in the listening audience. I mean, he's a type 2 diabetic. He went straight, nothing but juice. He was going to do it for 30 days. And I'll tell you, if you want to learn about this, if you really want to focus on your health, if you want to lose weight, or you just want to get healthy in general, go check out the website called superjuiceme.com. There's a documentary, a video you can watch right there. Everything you see in that is real. Rhea and I can validate it, and many of our family members and friends who've also started doing this, I've seen the results. But this guy started doing it, and basically within a day or two, he hadn't taken insulin. It's been what, Rhea, 4 months or so now?
Something like that, yeah, since August.
He was on high blood pressure medicine. He got off of that about 2 weeks after he started doing nothing but drinking raw fruit and vegetable juice. But basically after 2 days, he hasn't taken insulin. He used to take it 3 times a day. He hasn't taken it once. He checks his sugar all the time. He doesn't now, but he used to because he had to watch it and regulate it. But as soon as he started doing this, his body took care of itself and it started healing. So a lot of people who are type 2 diabetics can get off of this stuff, get off of the insulin if they're on it. The other thing, he lost about more than a pound a day. He's lost over 100 pounds. Whenever I would do it, I lose a pound a day. So it's and you won't be hungry. So I just want to share that with you. We ain't on the that ain't what our main thing in life is talking about. We talk about personal growth and leadership development, but it relates to leading yourself well, which is what Rhea's talking about. So you talk about, you got a section in your book from here to there, and you got 3 questions there. What are those 3 questions about, Rhea?
Yeah, I think whenever we look at something that we want to accomplish, whether it's improving our health or, building our business or finding a new career, the key thing that we need to look at is, number one, where am I? And, where do I want to go? Because you can't get there if you don't know where you're going. And then what's going to move me forward? So how will I get there? So for example, if someone does want to make some changes this year in their health, well, I got to just, number one, be brutally honest with myself. What's the status of my health? There's an exercise in the book where I walk through the reader through 10 questions in each dimension of life. So physically, there are 10 questions that just, no judgment, just really honest about where am I today, and rate yourself on things like, do I get as much sleep as I need? Am I making good choices nutritionally in what I eat most of the time? Do I get time for some exercise, like walking or running or something for my heart? Do I get time for stretching and flexibility? Right? So 10 questions to just really evaluate yourself of, where am I today relative to where I want to be? And, just being honest about that with ourselves. So that's where I am today, and then where I want to go. And then how will I get there, right? Because that's the key thing, is saying, all right, I know where I want to go. I know where I'm at. That's the gap. What is going to help me cross the gap? And that's where our action plan comes in. That's where our execution comes in. That's really, that's important. We there again, just like any journey that we want to travel, we got to know where we at and where we're going if we want to get there.
Yeah, and one thing I always talk about, because I try to make leading myself well in time pretty simple. And I always want to know who I am and where I am relative to where I want to be and who I want to be. And then I lead my life with one main question is, will what I'm about to do move me in the right direction? If it will and I do it, I get closer to where I want to be. If it won't and I do it, I get farther away. So that's a key point that you're making there. Let's talk about SMART goals. A lot of people talk about SMART goals, and what are you saying? Some people never heard of it. And also, let me say, Rhea, before you talk about these SMART goals, everything that you and I talk about, everything we talk about every day, everywhere, everything we write about is common sense. People hear this stuff and they say it's common sense. Why? This is all simple. This ain't nothing new. It may not be anything new to hear, but for a lot of people, it's something very new to do, because common sense means we understand we should do it, but much of this stuff requires uncommon sense to actually do it. You got to have a higher level of discipline, a higher level of mental capacity to actually make the decision you know you should make. All this stuff's common sense, right?
Sure. It's not rocket science. SMART goals really are attributed to, I think it's Kenneth Blanchard from the early 1970s. But it basically, SMART is an acronym, and it's a way to think about goal setting. And let me just say before we go there, before I speak to that, I'm a big fan of setting goals, but they have to be in a growth context, right? Because if I'm simply just goal oriented, what happens when I reach the goal is I'll quit striving, right? I'll quit trying to do anything else. If I'm setting goals in the context of long-term growth, then I'll set and reach a goal, but I'll set another goal and another goal, right? Realizing that that is a journey. So I think goals can be very powerful and powerful for us, but remember that they should be set in the context of growth. So SMART goals are basically the acronym that talks about, number one, set goals that are very specific. Research shows us we are 300% more likely to achieve something when we are very specific about it. An example of this is, yeah, I need to go work out next week, or I'm going to go work out Thursday at 5:30 as soon as I leave work, right? See how much more specific that is. You've got a plan of action. You've decided when and where that's going to happen. You're 300% more likely to carry it out. You've aligned that mental energy around, I'm going to do that. I've already figured out how. It just hasn't happened yet.
So when you talk about writing it down, you can write it down in your calendar, right? Schedule it.
Absolutely.
Put it on your schedule. That's the best place to write it.
Absolutely. Make a commitment to yourself and schedule it just like you would a commitment to anyone else. I like to do that in the first part of the week. It's like, when am I going to get my exercise in? When am I going to get this in? When am I going to, just like I plan the other activities that have to happen. Measurable. Can I measure my goal, right? How am I going to know when I get there? For example, if your goal is to write a book or to read a book, let's say read a book, because probably more people are reading books these days than writing. Maybe your goal is to read, Mac, I know your goal is 1 paragraph a day, right? But that's measurable. That's not just saying, I'm going to read for personal growth. You're saying, I'm going to read 1 paragraph a day. Maybe it's a page a day. Maybe it's a book a month, whatever it is. Can you measure it? Yes or no? And then attainable. It's got to be a reasonable goal, right? It's exciting to set big goals, but make sure that it is actually attainable. You actually can do this, and it's not going to have to cause you to move heaven and earth to get there. Realistic is kind of the key component, or the next component of that. And then the T stands for time bound. When am I going to do it? It's kind of in the if maybe you've heard of the 4 disciplines of execution, they like to say, I'm going to go from X to Y by when, right? From here to there by when. I'm going to lose 5 pounds in 2 weeks. Just set a date, because there again, the more intentional we can be, the more on purpose we can be, the more effective we are, the more likely we are to achieve it.
All righty. That's some good stuff. And so the key is executing, though, right?
Like anything, the greatest plan in the world doesn't do us any good if we don't actually do it. And, sometimes that's a struggle is once we get that plan in place, then we have to just say, you know what, I've made the plan. Now I have to live it out. And if I've made that commitment to myself, see, a lot of times we talk about integrity in our commitment, keeping our commitments we make to other people. And that's important, absolutely. But it's also important to honor the commitments that we make to ourselves. If we say, I'm going to read this personal growth book every single day, one paragraph, right? We've got to keep that commitment to ourselves, because when we do, we build up our mind muscle and it gets easier to set commitments and keep them in the future. So I like to say, start small. When you're setting goals for yourself and executing on your priorities, start small, right? How small can you make this goal so that you can 110% commit to doing it, so that you're like, I've made this goal so small that there's no reason in the world I can't do it. It's that easy. It's not a stretch goal, right? I want to build small, very tiny steps that build up over time. Consistency. We underestimate the power of consistency in moving forward. It's just like building a cathedral or any other skyscraper, right? It doesn't happen all at once. It's just one little brick at a time, one beam at a time, just one thing at a time. And most of us, we either don't get excited by the thought of small but very consistent goals because they're not really glamorous, right? It's just kind of one little thing, and that's not exciting, but it's very powerful when you talk about achieving whatever it is you want. If you want to write a book, write a page a day. If you want to read a book, if you want to get healthier, can you walk, maybe not 20 minutes, but maybe you can walk 5 minutes a day, right? How small can I make that goal?
Yep, and that's why I do a paragraph a day is my goal. But that's a minimum of a paragraph a day, which I can read in 30 seconds or a minute. I read for hours almost every day, but my goal is only one paragraph. A lot of people may laugh at that or think that's silly. Most of the people who would laugh at it or think it's silly, they're not reading any though. And so I want people to be effective. That's why I recommend people who don't read just a paragraph a day, make that a goal. And so, it's worked great for me. I've read hundreds of books and listened to thousands of hours of audio and watched thousands of hours of video. And I read every day. I've been doing it every day since 2008, and now this is what we do for a living. You started in 2008. You read a lot more than I do. Your goal is 50 nonfiction books a week. A year.
A year.
That's a lot different goal, but we both read all year long. We end up with the same result. The main thing is we're intentionally growing and developing. I read recently something that inspired a thought. You and I talked about it, but we're talking about people kicking off 2021, moving forward intentionally. And I just want to say something. Everybody says, not everybody. A lot of people think, though, there's a lack of opportunity. That's what's holding them back, lack of opportunity. But me and and anybody who understands leadership, personal growth knows it's not a lack of opportunity. It's a lack of character. Our character is what's holding us back. It's not a lack of opportunity. Every opportunity that anybody on this planet wants is straight out their door, out there waiting on them to show up. And so that's what we're talking about relative to prime time. Power of effective planning is how do you lead yourself well so you can actually move forward on purpose. So let's talk about these three powerful questions. We'll wrap this episode up, Rhea. These three powerful questions. If you've been listening to the last part one and you're listening today to part two, if you just write down these three questions Rhea's about to tell you, and you get serious in 2021, if you'll keep these three questions at the top of your mind all year long, and you actually have more than common sense. Common sense, when you hear them, you're going to say that's common sense. Doing them is different. Doing them requires uncommon sense in a lot of areas. What's those three powerful questions, Rhea?
Sure. The three questions are, what do I need to stop doing? As I look back at where I am, where I want to go this past year, what do I need to stop doing? What's not serving me well? What's not bringing me joy? What's not bringing me results? What do I need to keep doing? What's working for me? What has been something that's good, that's positive, that's productive? And then what do I need to start doing, right? Because now I've freed up some time and energy with the things I stopped doing. I've got some time to do the things that will move me forward.
Because you start off with that, what should I stop doing? You start off with that on purpose, because I know why you start off with that question, but because a lot of people make excuses. When you start talking about improving, they don't have time. They don't have time to do all these things. It doesn't cost you any time to stop doing something, does it, Rhea?
Nope. It can be as little as stop watching TV, stop spending time on social media, just stop doing something. And that's whatever you stopped doing, if it's 30 seconds a day, 30 minutes a day, 3 hours a day, now you have that time and energy to spend on something that will move you forward.
Yep. Like when I learned this, I stopped drinking. That was one of the things I stopped doing. I stopped drinking. Saved me a lot of time, saved me a lot of money, saved me a lot of headaches. And then it freed up my time and resources to do other things. And that's where I started going and attending different workshops and all kind of things like that you and I started doing, because I started saving a lot of time and money with that one question right there. What should I stop doing? So tell me about your workshop. You got a workshop coming up just really soon.
Yep, I've got a workshop starting January 5th, Primetime, the Power of Effective Planning virtual workshop. So 6-week virtual sessions where we do worksheets and individual action plans around goal setting, achieving those goals, and execution.
So you're going to lead people intentionally through 6 weeks, get them kick-started in 2021.
Absolutely.
So that's one thing they could start doing if they haven't been doing it, right, is investing in their own personal growth and development.
Absolutely.
Common sense says that'll move you forward, but doing it requires uncommon sense. There's going to be a lot of people that know they need to do it, and they ain't going to participate. Where can they get this book, Primetime, The Power of Effective Planning?
You can find it on Amazon, of course. It's also available on my website, rheastory.com/store.
All right, Rhea. So it's been a pleasure having you on today and sharing you with the Blue Collar Leadership podcast listeners. And for everyone who's been listening, I just want to leave you with a quote out of Rhea's book. It's a quote she put in there from a guy named Bill George. He says, "The values that form the basis for your true north are derived from your beliefs and convictions. In defining your values, you must decide what is most important in your life. Is it maintaining your integrity, making a difference, helping other people, or devoting yourself to family? There is no one right set of values. Only you can decide the question of your values." And I want to tell you this, if you value making 2021 better than 2020, you've got to do something different. Go check out rheastory.com/workshop. Check out this Primetime, The Power of Effective Planning. If you've got a team, I remember when I worked in manufacturing and 20 years in the corporate world, one of the things that everybody always wanted help with was time management. One reason everybody needs time management training is because it's not time management, it's personal leadership. And that's what Rhea is going to help anyone who joins her learn the difference between time management and personal leadership. We can't manage time. We can only manage ourselves and lead ourselves really within time. So thank you for being on today's, listening in on today's podcast. Talk to you next time.
Make it happen or someone else will. It might as well be you. Are you serious about taking your career and your life to the next level and beyond? Check out Mac Story's Blue Collar Leadership series books and others, now available on audio, along with paperback and ebooks at Amazon, iTunes, and Audible. Please visit bluecollarleadership.com to learn about Mac's books, programs, special offers, certifications, and more. Thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast.